Hello and welcome to the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast. I'm Jackie Tomes, and on this show we are having conversations about everything to do with building a property investment business that creates not just cash flow but also freedom. So that's everything right from the big picture strategy to build the business right down to the practical solutions and also maximizing your potential to make sure your business can really fly. And today we are talking about investing, and ultimately what makes you investable is one of the really big blockages in the way of growing a great company. It always comes down to money, and even if you have some of your own money to start, if you want to be able to really take this as far as you are able to, you're going to want to be able to work with external investors too. And that's what today's all about. What makes you investable, and how can you work with the right investors to do more deals faster? And today we're joined by both Dom and Dave, a fantastic combination for this conversation. Dave coming from the much more detailed angle, and Dom from the side of actually investing in other people too, including us. So bringing these two sides of the perspective together makes for a very powerful conversation. You are going to love this. So over to Dom and Dave.
Hello, Dave. I gather you're in
Hey.
South Africa. Today's topic is going to be what makes you and your deals investable. So, do you want to kick us off from your experience and how you've raised millions with, the answer to that question? What makes you and your deals investable?
Such a big question. There's so many different angles to go at this. So I wanted to start from a more functional level, like what is it that an investor's looking for? I think we just start there. And in the end, that comes back to numbers primarily, which is my bag anyway. But more than just numbers, when I think about doing deals that make sense for investors, I always take myself out of the equation of what the deal means for me. And I go straight into the investor's mind and I just say, okay, if I'm that investor, what am I trying to get out of property? And in theory, it's returns. Like on a very basic level, they are giving you money to make returns. I know it sounds stupid that I'm saying that. It sounds too simple, but I feel too many people forget it somehow. They just want to give someone money and make good returns and then get their money back. So on a fundamental level, you need to make sure your deal stacks up in a way that gives great returns. And I think a lot of people listening might be like, well, that's obvious, but I can't tell you how many deal analyzers I've looked at that don't actually show what the return on investment is as a percentage in a way that you can compare it to other investments, right? Because they usually say, oh, well, should I put it in stocks and shares, or should I put it in property, or should I these guys? So you need to, on a fundamental level, be able to stack your deal that shows a bottom line, the money that's invested, how much capital has been employed, and what profit-wise is the return on that money. And in our deals, how we've stacked it over time, we have two aspects. We've got profit from the initial uplift on the project, because often in property you're doing some sort of refurbishment, you're making an uplift, and there is profit made at that point. So there is therefore a substantive, there's an amount of return on their investment from that moment. And then separately, ongoing rentals. If you're holding onto the property, there's an amount of money usually in the deal at some point that could be in for a few years. So what is the returns on that money from the ongoing cash flow? And these are the two aspects that just have to be covered at a base level.
Absolutely. It is the fundamental starting point is basically, does the deal stack? Will this investor get their money back? That's like number one. But you also touched on a really important idea there that other people I think overlook, which is say you put yourself in the shoes of the investor. And a lot of people aren't able to do that. They only ever see the world from their point of view, and they don't even try to see it from someone else's point of view. So I think that's an absolutely key aspect, is like, put yourself in their shoes. You are the investor. What would you want to see from that person that you might be investing in? And yep, absolutely, of course, the deal's got to stack. But what else? Actually, a bit like in interviews in a job and other things in life, you want to know, like, and trust that person. You want to feel as though they've got integrity, they're professional. You're going to do your due diligence on them and find out who they are as a person. And do I want to work with this person? Because effectively, I'm going to have a relationship with them. I'm going to, lend them, hard-earned cash that I've raised and or earned, and I want to make sure that this is someone that I want to work with and who I trust. And if that bond, that rapport, that friendliness, that relationship isn't there, it's never going to work. And I think it's kind of, we can do the logical stuff of, yes, a deal's got to stack, but actually people, as we know, we've discussed in other podcasts, people go with their gut instincts, they go with feeling. And actually that rapport is so important to get right. So you as the person raising the finance needs to have that grounded certainty that you know what you're doing, and you have confidence that you will give that, you'll make that money back for them. And if you haven't got that certainty inside, you'll never raise finance.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not never, but it's one of the most
Struggle.
important aspects to get right. And this is why most people actually tend to start with friends and family as their first investors, because the friends and family already know, like, and trust them to a certain degree. And then you go from there, because actually you build up your confidence knowing that actually, oh yeah, my parents invested in me, or my friends invested in me in these deals. Now I know I can do this. I can scale it from here.
Yeah.
So yeah, putting yourself in their shoes is absolutely key. So what else do you do or have done that has helped build that rapport and that relationships with the people that you've raised money from?
That's great. I hear three things from everything you just said there that I think have been integral to us being successful in working with investors. One is the trust. One is
Mm.
your integrity, which obviously backs up the trust, but your integrity. And one is your reliability. Because they need to, and both the integrity and the reliability kind of feed into the trust factor and feed into that gut instinct. So from my perspective, everything we do from the first moment I start talking to someone who could invest through to the moment that, at the very end of our working relationship, really. But like, we need to think about this point of time when that you're trying to get someone to invest with you, what's making you investable at that point. We've got to give that impression, or at least show them that in the most clear way possible. So I would say every interaction I have with an investor from that first moment is, how can I show that I'm trustworthy? How can I show that they can, I'm not hiding something from them, that there's not some hidden agenda or some hidden sting that they're not aware of? How can I show that I have integrity, that I work with ethics and morals, and that I'm the type of person they're going to want to be in bed with? And how can I show that I am super reliable, that I live up to my word, and that every time they give me their money and I say it's going to come back to them, that is 100% going to happen? Because that's what it comes down to. If you aren't reliable, for example, in sending an email to them when you've told them you will, then how that's automatically putting a red flag in their subconscious that you might not send back the money where you've said you want to. So I view the entire process of getting to know someone as, this is this relationship is all built on the trust, the integrity, and the reliability. And if I can get those across, that person will, on a fundamental level, want to invest in me. And then the rest is almost fluff. Oh yeah, they're kind of like property. Oh yeah, my model's okay. Well, any model is good. HMOs, single lets, blocks of flats, as long as the returns are what they're looking for, it doesn't matter about the model. So your model is investable as long as the returns are there. So we can ignore the model almost. So then it comes back to you, and are you someone they want to invest with? And that's the key. And I would add one other thing to those three aspects, which is that people buy into your energy, because you can be really clearly trustworthy and really clearly have good integrity and a really wonderful sense of reliability, but they can think there's something off if you don't also show this feeling of like drive and positivity and that kind of empowerment of an entrepreneur. If you just come
Yes.
across as like a bit dull, a bit straight, a bit kind of
Yes.
safe,
Bit
and
boring.
exciting for them. It's like, actually a lot of investors are investing for something that's exciting to them, and that's you.
Exactly. Yeah, you're so right. I think this is the most important aspect for people listening to get right if you're looking to raise finance, is effectively that personal leadership of oneself. Having a really, the people I see who raise finance, they have a healthy self-esteem. They know, like, and trust themselves, right? And as a result, it oozes from them, and you kind of look to them and go, wow, this person, knows what they're doing. They're good at what they do. They love who they are. They love what they're up to, and that's what people buy into. The definition of leadership is winning the hearts and minds of the people who work with or for you. And when you love yourself and you are confident in the way you act and the things that you're doing, people are actually attracted to that. They want to be around people who are going places, and that's why
Yes.
really good leaders attract followers effectively. And so that's why if you're looking to raise finance, you need to be a great leader of yourself. On I'm talking softer skills here rather than sort of getting the numbers right. Absolutely, you've got to get the numbers right, and that's a given. No angel investor, no crowd property, or no fund is going to invest in you unless the numbers stack. But other than that, it is about you and your team. So yes, I will do the due diligence on the person that I'm investing in, but I also kind of want to know who else is involved that they work with, and do I know, like, and trust them? Because actually, who you associate with is almost as important. I mean, I wouldn't say equally important, but certainly almost as important. So, what's their experience? Have they done it before? All of these things are questions that is good to ask yourself to go, would I invest in myself? You know, from an investor's point of view, would I invest in myself? Do I trust myself? Do I have the experience? Do I have the right communication style? As you said, how does this person communicate? We never get a chance to give a second impression.
Mm.
So we've got to make sure that it's right from the outset, and it's almost better to over communicate rather than under communicate, because, as you said, you can lose that trust, you can lose that loyalty very quickly if people feel that they're not having things addressed, or you're maybe shying away or hiding, which is
Mm.
not a good thing to do. I invested in someone, just a quick example. I invested in someone, a lovely person. I knew her from the community that I was in, and I knew I was just replacing another investor, so I thought it was a fairly safe investment. But she went quiet. I'd send her a text or an email and go, "Hey, how's it going?" And she wouldn't reply for 2 or 3 weeks, and I'd be like, "Well, that's not on. I've got
Mm.
however many £1,000 with you. I want to know it's safe. Even if it takes, I know property, there's delays, right? Especially banks, solicitors, there's always
Yeah.
delays. So I'd already factored that in my mind. But the fact that she didn't communicate, it means she's ruined the relationship. I'm not going to do that again, not unless we have a serious conversation about it beforehand. So yeah,
What's
as an
interesting,
investor myself,
communication.
I want to know the communication. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Well, communication is the thing with which you transmit all of the above aspects of
Mm,
yourself, right? And I, giving my own life story, I can promise everyone listening that our projects have not all gone perfectly. We have had
right.
major issues. We've had refurbs go over budget, refurbs not go to plan. Like, property is a tough industry, and success in property does not mean perfection. I think a lot of people believe that you have to be perfect and you have to show this veneer of perfection. Actually, part of what an investor would be looking for is to see, and me as an investor, when I invest in someone, I wouldn't invest with someone until I've seen that they've gone through the shit and they've actually gone through
Right.
the challenges and come out the other side,
Yes.
flying, as it were.
Yes.
They've got through it. And yes, it didn't go as they expected at the beginning, but they came out the other side all okay. And that's it. That's what a successful property investor is to me, not that it goes perfectly. And that's when it comes to communication, the worst breakdowns of relationships that I've seen in people we've worked with, or well, when I've come across it, is when, not because the project's gone wrong. I've seen projects go really wrong and it all be absolutely fine. It's only when they don't communicate exactly what you just described. And it's so sad, because like, if you just told the other person what was going on, they'd be fine. But as soon as you go silent, the mind goes, and they click in with this
Yeah.
fears and
Yeah.
worries, and that it's all going wrong. And then
The
suddenly the
unknown.
ego with all the, well, this isn't
Yeah.
acceptable. And actually, that's suddenly they're building this whole story around who you are that isn't who you really are. It's based on the fact that you have not communicated. That's all. And that
Yes.
story is basically of someone who is unreliable and untrustworthy, and someone who is going to steal all their money and run away with it. Those are the fears coming up, and that actually that suddenly it all comes in to undermine the relationship. Obviously, it doesn't come up like just you don't just suddenly go, oh, this person's going to steal all my money. That's not how it comes, but that is the underlying fear that starts bubbling. And that's all down to one thing: communication. Just send the message, pick up the phone, send the email, explain what's happened,
Yes.
and show, more importantly, what you're doing about it. What makes someone investable is that they can have a problem and solve it. That's
Yes.
it.
Right. Absolutely. It's spot on. The other thing that I'm thinking of is you as the person borrowing the money or doing the joint venture with them,
Mm.
you got to think, do I want to work with this person? Is this an investor that I want to have their money? Because, if it's a suitcase under the table, you might think, well, where's that money coming from? Another time, actually, they're an absolute pain in the bum and
Yeah.
they never leave you alone. They want to know everything. They're always worried and they're taking up loads of your time. They're stopping you from actually doing the job that you're trying to do, which is to make the property model work and get the investment right. And actually, yeah, you've got to ask yourself, do I want this investor? Because yes, I want money, but you've got to be equal. You can't be subordinate to them just because they've got the money.
Yeah.
People who act subordinate and kind of act as if having the money is superior. It's not. You know as well as I do. Actually, it's far more work doing the property investing and finding the deal and making it stack and all those other bits of making the property work than it is lending someone the money. I mean,
Yeah.
money is everywhere. I mean, they. I don't know how much they print every day, but trillions. What is it? I heard the other day it's something like 9 trillion, the Nasdaq, and it's just money. They're pressing buttons and it's changing hands and they're making commission left, right, and center. And money is everywhere. Money is everywhere. You've just got to know where to look for it and provide value. So don't ever feel that you're inferior to the investor who's lending you the money. I think it's so important to see yourself as equals rather than being subordinate. So that's a key idea. The other key idea I think is also they're going to look you up if you're borrowing.
Mm.
So what does your profile look like online? On Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on all the social media channels, on your website if you've got one, and on due diligence. So if I type your name into Endol or Dudil or other risk management websites, what comes up? How many companies have gone under that are against, have your name against them? If it doesn't look good there, that's a red flag for me when it comes to either investing in someone or yeah, or even borrowing
Uh,
their money. So make sure that your online presence is absolutely key. Has that something? I mean, that's what I do as an investor in other people, Dave. But has it? What have people who've invested in you said or looked for from your experience?
yeah. What's interesting is I think we've been very lucky, Jackie and I. We don't have any businesses that have been had to be liquidated. So our general credit history is very, very good. So I've never been too worried about that because I know that's all very clean. And we're very aware of our social platforms, and what we present on that because that's all part of our business. And part of what we put out there is all designed to show the world who we are in a nice way that's very clear and concise, but also doesn't undermine us. So that side, I think I've never been questioned on it. It's never come up, and I've always been happy with it. But what has come up, what is really interesting, is that we give personal guarantees. It's one of our methods of security. We give personal guarantees, and I have had to provide full assets and liabilities for us, for Jackie and me personally, to investors. Now, I've spoken to a lot of people about this. Who are like, oh, I don't really want to have to do that, or I don't want to give a personal guarantee. And my personal opinion, and it's totally just me. No one has to share this, but my personal opinion, and one that I think has probably given me great traction with investors, with getting them towards investing with us, is that if I'm not willing to personally guarantee my investment, then I have no right asking someone else to give me money. If I don't believe that investment is going to go, well enough that I'm going to be on it and I'm literally backing that myself. I know I'm not bringing the money, but I am backing it financially with my own finances. If I can't do that, then what? That's not integrity to me. That for me,
Yeah,
that's like part of my giving integrity is to say, yes, your money's going in, but I am on the line with you. We are in this together. And by saying no to a personal guarantee, that's basically an automatic red flag for an investor that you're like, oh well,
right,
oh okay, so what? You're not willing to risk anything at all.
right.
That's a
Yeah,
problem for them because they're risking all their money with you.
yeah,
And then on the other side is this assets and liabilities statement. I'm not shy about showing who I am and where I've come from and what I have. I feel like if someone needs that, to feel good about investing with me, then I will share it with them. And I'll ask them if you need an NDA to say, please don't share this with someone else. But if I'm asking someone to invest £500,000 with me, I think they deserve to know who is backing that £500,000, and that I've got the assets to actually be worthwhile. Because if I've only got £1 to my name, then that personal guarantee means nothing. So I've got to be able to back that up. And I remember this is, again, like I say, I say this all quite passion because that's how I feel about it. But I know other people have different opinions, and that's absolutely fine. It's just how I feel. I know that security is a big thing for a lot of investors. What's the security? And they
Yes.
insist on a second charge or a first charge
Yeah.
even. But actually, security is a very tricky business when you're dealing with banks, because they have to take their security
Right.
and they might not
Yeah.
want a second charge, right? So
Yeah.
I've gone through 10 years of investing now, and we've never had to do a second charge or
Wow.
even a first charge with an investor. We've always used bank finance alongside an investor who either is a shareholder in the company, which is their security through shares, that's a JV partner, or a loan with my personal guarantee. And that concept, I don't think I would have managed that if I hadn't also been willing to back it up by saying, okay, look, you don't get
Yeah.
a second charge, but look at my assets, look at who I am,
Yes.
and be fully transparent and give them anything they want to feel really confident that I'm not hiding anything, and I am there to back it up, and I'm willing to show them
Right.
that.
Yes. Yes. So what do people who are listening who don't have very much assets and
Mm.
maybe haven't got that much experience, what do they do to be able to raise finance?
Well, I would say, for example, my assets only come into play when I'm asking for a loan. So I don't, it's not really a factor when we're going into a joint venture together and setting up a company. So, and this is what we did at the very beginning. When we first started, we basically shared equity because of this problem. And I think it's a really good way to overcome the barrier to go into a relationship together with someone like and trust. And I think that's really important, just not some random stranger. We did it with family to begin with because we felt really confident in that relationship. Because I wouldn't say just jump into bed with someone, but I use that as a way to get over that. It's like, well, they've got security in their shares, in their ownership
Yeah.
of the property, as it were, whatever that method of ownership is. And that made them feel good. That's what their security is the asset, not me backing it, as it were,
Right.
because we're in it together.
Yes.
So that was my way of dealing with that.
Yes.
And I do think up front, don't give up, like you said, Dom, right? Don't undervalue yourself. I think so many people who start working with investors massively undervalue themselves. And as long as you're not undervaluing yourself and you're saying, yes, you're bringing money which is worth a lot, I'm bringing all of this which is worth a lot, so let's meet in the middle and be fair and equitable about this. Again, give listeners an idea of our idea of fair and equitable. I've always worked on a 50-50 split, just always, because it's the simplest thing to feel fair about. If you're getting half each, one's bringing the money, the other's bringing in everything else. I know some people, investors, who would say that's not fair and equitable. They need 60%. The non-money, the
Yes.
business side would say, oh, well, I'm
Right.
bringing way more and I need 60%. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's your choice. That's your version of fair and equitable.
Yeah.
Similarly, I know investors who have the money who say, people don't realize what I'm bringing. Like it's so hard to have all
Yes.
this money. I've worked really hard for it, and I deserve 60% for that. And that's their
Yeah.
idea. So you've got to find the partner who matches your idea of fair and equitable. And I can't. The amount of different people I've spoken to are like, but what is fair? Well, fair's in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? It's fair is what
Right.
you think is fair, what the other person thinks fair, and if it combines, great,
Exactly.
you've got a partnership.
That's right. And whatever you believe to be true is what your brain will then look to justify. So if you say to yourself, you need to have money to make money, then that's what your brain will tell you and justify it when you look out there. But actually, you don't always need money to make money. You need energy and ideas and drive and commitment to the outcome to make it happen. And if you believe you can, then absolutely you will. So yeah, some really good points there. Um, yeah, so being able to do the work if you haven't got the assets and exchange that time and energy for doing it. And also starting smaller, right? Because there are properties around the UK that you can get for sort of 60, 70,000. And people have that some people have that as pocket change. So they could have first charge effectively whilst you do the
That's true.
work to, refurbish it and everything else. So there's always ways of starting. And I think
Yes.
it's really important that people don't talk themselves out of
Yeah.
doing something just because they've got maybe a fixed mindset around it. It's always about how can I not, oh no, it doesn't work. because that is a fixed mindset. It's the wrong way of looking at it.
Yeah.
So what would you say then in conclusion? We've covered a lot of areas. We've kind of, due diligence. We've covered who we've got to be emotionally and how we've got to feel about it. What would you say is your sort of summary of all of this for the listeners? What are the summary from your point of view?
Well, I'll go a bit further than the summary. I'm going to say that our method of building this know, like, and trust is very. We've built it over the years, and it's something that we pass on to our mentees and our clients and people we work with. Is you've got to have a really clear process that you take people through, because you need, and we all know this. It's a sale, really, isn't it? They're buying into you. They've got to buy into your product, who you are, and what your model is, and that requires lots of touch points for them to get to know you, build the trust, get to understand how you work. So we actually have quite a comprehensive process that we've developed, which is at least 7 touch points long, where even if you could go faster, we try not to. Say it to my clients a
Slow it
lot.
down.
Don't cut the phases. Don't cut them, because they're all
Yes.
relevant to getting to know the person for
Yes.
both sides. Because by phase 4, by 4 or 5, I might be finding out things about the investor that put me off. Like you said, maybe they're not a values match. Maybe it's someone who I realize is going to cause me lots of stress. Actually, cut now. I'd rather not. Let's get out while I can. And I only know that by having 6 or 7 different touch points and different types of communication. So I would say you've got to have, as a summary, you've got to understand that people are buying into you as well as your deals. Obviously, the deal has to return. And then the rest of it is about showing the person through a multi-touch point process, where showing them and going more and more in depth as you go through that process, who you are, what you stand for, and the fact that you are reliable, trustworthy, and you have good integrity, and you're someone that they're going to want to work with. And on the outside, if you can, while you're at it, get them excited about your
Right.
energy and your drive
Yeah.
and what you're doing,
The mission.
and wanting to jump onto your tailcoats. If you can do all of that and have an average model that returns well, you will get investors. But I guess, and there's one thing I wanted to dive into before we finish, Tom. I think
Yeah.
this is a real red herring for a lot of people. Everything I've just said, how do you feel that relates to your professionalism, being professional? What's your kind of take on coming across as professional?
So I would say when I think of professionalism, it's having high quality, high standards in everything that you do. The way you show up, the way you dress, you be on time, the communication style, the communication rhythm, having a process, like you just said, having a sequence, because this isn't a one-off. If you're professional in property, you don't do it once. You're going to be raising finance the whole time, and so it's having a process to it, which kind of shows to yourself and to your investors that this is a scalable business and scalable model. It's got to be replicable. So professionalism basically is everything. It's as you say, integrity. It's not even good integrity. Like, you either have integrity or you don't. You either are professional or you're not. It's kind of black and white. So I think one has to effectively think that everything counts and do it really well, particularly in the eyes of the investor. Certainly in the early days, until they know you well enough to know that, this person's occasionally not very good at replying to my text or something like that. Don't let them see your flaws until you've known them for quite a few years. And but yeah, so professionalism and integrity have got to be out there from the outset, is what I would say. What are your thoughts?
I'm going to add one caveat to all of that, because I agree with everything. But there is one aspect that I see holds people back a lot, which is when they focus so much on coming across as professional that they forget professionalism is really a state of being. It's really who you are presenting. But they get so focused on looking professional that they'll get stuck on things like brochures and the things that the outward trappings professionalism, having an amazingly good looking brochure that they've spent loads of time and money on, and amazing, everything perfect. And
Yes.
just a warning to anyone who's doing this, that is not professionalism. Yes, you need something that looks good, that will come across clearly and concisely, and the person can read and understand. It doesn't look like you put together by a 2-year-old. You just need something like that. You do not need a 100-page brochure explaining absolutely everything about your model, who you are, that's all bling and wonders. It just becomes a procrastination and a holdback point. So you are the
Yeah.
professionalism, and everything you stand for and how you act, that's professionalism. The stuff you write, the stuff you present, the things you send, that's just trappings, and they just need to be good enough. They just need to show the investor what they need to know, but they do not need to be this like, billion-dollar company quality. They just need to be good enough. But
Yes.
you can be super. You can be the top quality you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, you're so right, Dave. You've been brilliant by saying that, because I can't see myself. I missed stuff, and that's why it's so good to have people who are working with you to help you see that your blind spots. So as you say, have the professionalism, but also be yourself effectively. Be human, because that's what people buy into, is that emotion. And so being yourself and having good self-esteem, being confident in who you are, is equally as important as the professionalism. So yeah, excellent.
Awesome. So are you investable, or what steps do you have to take in order to make sure that you are? Some amazing takeaways that you can implement off the back of that session today. If you are really focusing, or you want to know more about how to raise finance, we have an event called Raising Finance Formula. Our next one is on the 7th of March. It's held online, 9 till 3 p.m. And it's all about the formula that we've created to raise finance. Everything from the more practical structure side all the way through to the mindset of how you come about serving the other person. So if you're interested in that, the details are on our website. It's property-strategy.com/RFF for Raising Finance Formula. Our next one's on the 7th of March, and we do have some other dates coming up through 2024 and beyond. So check out the website for more information if you really want to delve into this in all the detail that we are known for, and everything that we have done in order to go out and raise over £7 million from external investors. So we hope to see you there. And for now, we will leave you until next week, when it's going to be myself and Dom talking about the path of least resistance. So we'll see you then. Or you'll be hearing from us then, should I say. Bye for now.